Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever really stopped to think about how a single word or a picture can have so much weight? It's kind of amazing, right? Well, today we're going to get into that by exploring the work of the incredible cultural theorist Stuart Hall. We're going to unpack one of the most powerful ideas out there for analyzing media, representation. All right, let's just jump right in with a super simple question. You see this picture of a dog. What is it? You think, dog, obviously. It seems, well, obvious, doesn't it? Right. Most of us, we just assume there's this totally natural, one-to-one connection between the thing itself, the furry, four-legged animal, and the word dog, or a picture of one. It's like the word is just a mirror for the real thing. But what if that link isn't nearly as straightforward as we think? This is exactly where the brilliant Stuart Hall comes into the picture. He looked at that common sense idea and said, hold on a second. And in doing so, he pretty much changed how we think about media and culture forever. So Hall helps us see that representation isn't just some passive mirror, just reflecting what's already there. No. He argues it's actually an active, super powerful force that shapes the world we live in. Okay, so this brings us to the absolute core of his idea. Here's the definition. Representation is the production of meaning through language. And you've got to focus on that keyword, production. It's not about reflecting reality, it's about actively making meaning. Yeah, so it's not just showing us what's out there. Hall calls it the work, the actual process that builds our understanding of what's real. And let me tell you, that is a massive shift in how we think about things. All right, so to really get our heads around this, Hall kind of sets up this showdown, if you will, between three different ways of thinking about how representation works. And looking at them side by side really shows you why his idea was such a game changer. Okay, so you've got these three main theories. First, there's the reflective approach. That's the idea that meaning is just in the thing itself. Then you've got the intentional approach, which says, nope, it's all about what the creator or author meant to say. But then there's a third one, the constructionist view, and this is Hall's big idea. This is where things get really interesting. It says that meaning isn't found or intended, it's built. We build it together as a society using our shared language. And this quote from Hall just nails it. He says, meaning does not inhere in things, in the world. It is constructed, produced. Think about that. It's not something we just find like buried treasure. It's something we actively make. So yeah, this constructionist idea is a total game changer, especially if you're into cultural analysis. But you're probably asking, okay, but how does that actually work? How do we do that? Well, let's get into the mechanics of it. So Hall breaks it down into two key systems that make representation possible. And the wild thing is, we use these systems constantly, all day, every day, usually without even realizing it. It really happens in a couple of stages. First, we have the concepts. This is basically our mental map of the world, all the ideas and categories we have in our heads. Then, step two, we have language. This is the system of science, like words or images, that we use to stand in for those concepts. But here's the crucial part, step three. How do we connect the two? That's where shared cultural codes come in. Think of these codes as the secret rulebook we all know that links our concepts to our language. It's the glue that makes communication possible. Okay, think about a traffic light. It's a perfect, super simple example. You see a red light, you stop your car. It's automatic, right? But have you ever actually stopped to wonder why red means stop? Because here's the thing. There is absolutely zero natural connection between the color red and the act of stopping. The actual wavelength of red light has nothing to do with hitting the brakes on a car, right? It means stop, simply because we as a culture have constructed and agreed on that meaning. It's a shared code, a convention. That's the constructionist theory right there in action. It's not natural, it's made. Okay, so if meaning is constructed, then the next big question is, how does it get around? How does it circulate through society and start connecting to these much bigger things like power and even our own identities? How does a simple thing like a red light become so deeply embedded in our culture? To answer that, Hall and his colleagues came up with this really powerful model called the circuit of culture, and it's a fantastic tool for seeing the bigger picture. What this circuit shows us is that meaning isn't static. It's not just made once and then it's done. It's constantly being produced and reproduced through these 5 interconnected points: representation, how it's depicted; identity, how we relate to it; production, who's making it, consumption, how we, the audience, actually use and interpret it, and regulation, what rules or norms are controlling it. They all feed into each other. And this is where it gets really personal, because this isn't just about abstract ideas or traffic lights anymore. It's about us. And this quote from Hall really drives that home. What he's saying is that our identities, who we think we are, aren't these fixed, stable things that are just reflected in the media. No, he says they are actively produced by and within representation itself. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. We are constantly being shaped, constantly becoming who we are through the stories, the images, the representations we interact with every single day. So that brings us to the big so what? Why does any of this matter outside of the university classroom? Well, because this isn't just theory. It's a practical toolkit for thinking critically about the world. Because if meaning is always being built, that means it can also be challenged. It can be fought over. Representation is never neutral. Hall calls it a battleground for meaning. It's the arena where different groups struggle to define what's real, to define identities, to define our whole world. And so we're left with a final, really important question, one that turns this whole theory into a tool you can use, like, right now. The next time you're scrolling through your feed or watching a movie or just listening to the news, ask yourself, who is defining reality here? Whose voice are you hearing? And just as importantly, whose voice is being left out? And which version of the world is being presented to you as just the way things are?